For centuries, the path to the divine was standardized. Organized religion provided the architectural and social glue, acting as the absolute center of public life. Today, that traditional structure is emptying out. This chart tracks the religiously unaffiliated in the U.S. In 1970, this group sat at 5% of the population. Today, that number has spiked to nearly 30%. They are demographically known as the nones, meaning they belong to no organized group. The data shows something surprising about this exit. Belief in God or the soul hasn't disappeared, but the trust that once made belonging automatic has vanished. A major driver of this departure is politics. The pulpit became indistinguishable from a political podium, turning faith into an exclusionary brand rather than a welcoming sanctuary. Compounding this were ongoing headlines of institutional corruption. As society evolved its understanding of climate and equality, the slow adaptation of traditional churches alienated their younger members even further. Walking away often involves a high personal cost. For those whose identities were tied to the church, deconstructing is a painful search among the wreckage. In these cases, leaving is an act of self-preservation against the trauma of exclusion. This exit has fueled the rise of the spiritual but not religious, or SBNR. Millions decided that to save their personal faith, they had to leave the building entirely. The altar has moved out of the cathedral and right into the living room. SBNRs operate with the mindset of a curator. Traditional institutions demand orthodoxy, or adhering to a single set of right beliefs. The modern seeker demands authenticity, prioritizing the reality of their own feelings. They built their practice from a spiritual buffet. A seeker might pull a measure of Buddhist mindfulness, combine it with Christian ethics, and add a layer of Stoic resilience, all without committing to the underlying theology of any one tradition. You don't need to consult a priest to access ancient wisdom anymore. Technology has democratized the divine, putting thousands of apps and digital forums right in your pocket. This chart illustrates the new digital priesthood. An algorithm curates your online feed based on past interactions, feeding you comfortable ideas. But this eliminates friction. You lose the mysterious encounters that challenge you to grow, leaving you trapped inside an isolated bubble. Total spiritual autonomy strips away external authority. Faith is no longer a shared physical experience. It lives exclusively inside the isolated nervous system. Many seekers turn to the natural world for grounding. They view untamed spaces, like ancient geology, as the only authentic, unedited scripture available to them. The reverence people once reserved for Sunday morning liturgy is now applied to secular life. A silent walk through an art gallery or entering a deep state of focus while working are treated as holy moments. At the extreme end of this experiential seeking is a rising trend known as chemical spirituality. Clinical psychedelics act as a biological shortcut. They reliably trigger profound feelings of awe, bypassing the rigid structures required by traditional practice. While these methods bypass the bureaucracy of the church, they place the entire burden of making sense of the universe onto the solo seeker. A personalized faith comes with severe trade-offs. Seeking is a solitary journey, and without a structure to hold you, solitude easily devolves into deep human isolation. Organized religion provided a built-in support network. When a congregation disappears, so does the group of people dedicated to carrying you through sickness, childbirth, and marriage. This is most evident at the bereavement barrier. A curated spiritual aesthetic might feel good on a Tuesday afternoon, but it collapses entirely when faced with the uncuratable reality of death and grief. There is also a steep economic cost to replacing the church. Historically, communal worship was free. Today, the void is filled by a heavily monetized mindfulness market. When enlightenment is gated behind $100 yoga classes and elite destination retreats, the new spirituality risks becoming an exclusive luxury, reserved only for those with disposable income. Achieving perfect, personalized spiritual freedom strips away the very social safety nets that have kept societies emotionally grounded for generations. When everyone acts as their own high priest, the culture loses its shared moral language. We lose the common stories and codes that allow us to communicate our values to one another. When morality is purely subjective, the code that once unified neighborhoods begins to fray. It becomes difficult to maintain a cohesive society when the very definitions of good and true vary from person to person. recognizing this loneliness, a countertrend is emerging. Seekers are attempting to reverse engineer community by forming secular congregations and neighborhood microchurches. Yet these groups often struggle to maintain momentum. Secular humanism and messages of self-forgiveness are highly effective for the intellect, but they frequently fail to quench the deeper, instinctual human thirst for the infinite. We are a culture caught in the middle. The rigid structures of pure institutional authority are dying, and the new frameworks capable of replacing them haven't been born yet. The work of the coming decades involves a new kind of architecture, forging communities that can protect individual freedom without surrendering to the isolation that currently defines the modern seeker.